Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and with the passing of Paul Reubens a while back, I thought it was fitting to review a movie that he starred in, and of course, as you read the title, no, it's not one of the Pee Wee Herman movies. And here's the thing, Paul Reubens had done a lot more than just being Pee Wee Herman. He was a good actor. Usually he played a lot of comedic roles, but there were times that he played serious roles. And this film that he starred in is a comedy. And this being a superhero comedy, which being Mystery Men. Yes, Mystery Men. Yeah, I gotta say, I knew a little bit about this movie, and, when watching this movie, I discovered and learned more that Mystery Men, the movie, is a movie adaptation of a comic book, because, yeah, Mystery Men is a comic book, and it was created by Bob Burden, and Bob Burden would be best known for creating the independent comic book character named Flaming Carrot, if anybody knows Flaming Carrot. And Mystery Men, the comic itself of Mystery Men comes from the Dark Horse comics. And not to mention, there have been plenty of movie adaptations of Dark Horse comics from, Time Cop, and most notably, The Mask and Hellboy. Yes, and Mystery Men being one of them. So yeah, alright, so I'll go ahead and read the description / the story as I always do. In order to generate more endorsement, if I'm saying that right, revenue, Champion City's resident superhero, Captain Amazing, arranges for the release of superhero villain Casanova Frankenstein, only to be captured by him. The city's fate rests in the hands of 7 loser super wannabes. The fork-flinging Blue Raja, the shovel-wielding shoveler, the possessed bowling ball-hurling bowler, the flatulent spleen, the only when nobody's looking invisible boy, the mysterious Sphinx, and the I don't think I'm saying that word right, sorry, angry Mr. Furious. So the way that this movie opens, we have Champion City. Like, that's a interesting name for a city, Champion City. Man, I tell you, because, first off, like, the visual effects in this, definitely, you could tell, because of when this came out, because this came out in the late 90s, and talk about, late 1990s CGI, I tell ya, and the music, too. Definitely, because with giving you those late 90s vibes, like, you get my point. And not to mention, there are a couple of times where there are, close-up shots, just a little bit of them, I don't know, maybe in comparison to some of the close-up shots in the Lord of the Rings films, but, and so we get the introduction of, at first, 3 superhero wannabes. The Blue Raja, played by Hank Azaria, the Shoveler, played by William H. Macy, and Furious, played by Ben Stiller. Because at one point they come in, they try their best. I mean, they try their best to be superheroes, even though at first they're not good at it, but, they are trying. And, they try to take on these group of villains called, the Red Eyes, I want to say, I guess. And with Blue Raja, his capability is, throwing utensils as, those being his weapons, and, I guess his, boomerangs, whatever, and the Shoveler, well, because his capability is using a shovel as a weapon, and for, Furious, well, his capability is, if he's really furious, like he just unleashes his anger and attacking and punching the bad guys, you know. So their attempt to stop the group of bad guys, again, I think they're called the Red Eyes. I'm even looking at it on the IMDb page. Like, nobody is listed for the group of villains that we see at the beginning. Oh well. But, sure enough, Captain Amazing steps in, and he takes on the bad guys, and Captain Amazing saves the day. And, you know, even like the three superhero wannabes, they try to have a conversation with Captain Amazing. And at one point, Doc Healer, I think I got the last name right, played by Tom Waits, he tells the three superhero wannabes, Blue Raja, Shoveler, and Furious, that, you know, he was impressed by what they were trying to do, and offers them, he offers to, build weapons for them to help them out, basically. And by doing so, giving them his card, and if they ever need his help, just, they'll contact him. And so, yeah. So, unfortunate for the three superhero wannabes, and, Captain Amazing, getting a lot of news reporters and getting a lot of fans' attentions, But he's kind of a jerk because, like, he shoves a kid aside and pushing someone in a wheelchair, just, like, pushing him aside, rolling him aside. And another thing about Captain Amazing is he has done a lot of sponsors, like being a spokesperson, and one news reporter woman mentions to him and asks him about something that he was not aware of Pepsi. And Captain Amazing is upset because as of right now in Champion City, not a lot of superheroes are out. Supervillains, and, for Captain Amazing to take on. And that's when Captain Amazing, he wants to release Casanova Frankenstein out of prison, because Casanova Frankenstein's parole hearing is today, if I'm saying that right. And Captain Amazing, disguised as Lance Hutt, and yeah, because the whole Superman / Clark Kent thing, and Captain Amazing as Lance Hutt wearing glasses. Like, nobody recognizes him as Captain Amazing with the glasses, So, and also, Casanova Frankenstein being played by Jeffrey Rush. That's right, Captain Hector Barbosa is in this film, and he plays the main villain. Yeah, and, we see, because Casanova Frankenstein, and he's kind of messed up, and, well, how people would look in jail, and he kind of gives this speech, and, like, he's showing that he's cured and he's better, but nobody believes him, like the judges. But when Lance Hutt steps in and, pretending to, to say that Captain Amazing left a note, saying that Casanova deserves a second chance, and they go along with this, and thus Casanova Frankenstein is labeled to be cured, and he's released from jail, and it's obvious that no, he's not cured, and he's still pure evil. And even returning to his mansion, and even at one point, the three superhero wannabes, like, they're at this cafe that they usually go to, and one waitress that works there, Monica, being played by Claire Florani, if I'm saying the last name right, and which the waitress, like, Furious, he has the hots for. And, throughout the film, he tries to, make a move on her and flirt with her and stuff like that. Sometimes, like, it doesn't really work, but as the film proceeds, they start to grow attached and stuff like that, And when they leave the cafe, well, they stumble upon the Disco Boys, and the Disco Boys, pretty funny, because one is named Tony P, and the other being named Tony C. They both have the name Tony, but their last names, are different, P and C. Tony P being played by Eddie Izzard, and Tony C, being played by Pras Michael. Yeah, I hope I said the full name right. And the Disco Boys basically work with Casanova Frankenstein, and Furious is on their tail, and he is curious on what they're doing. But for the Shoveler and Blue Raja, I almost forgot his name. They basically call it a night and they go back to their homes. But for Furious, well, he's basically going to have to do this on his own to, follow them and on his motorcycle. And when he comes up to Casanova Frankenstein's mansion, and basically, Casanova is back to his evil doings, and at one point blowing up, I think, the jail that he was in, the prison. And not long after what Casanova does, Captain Amazing comes in, and basically Casanova was expecting Captain Amazing. And of course, Captain Amazing knew that Casanova would not be cured, and he would still be doing his evil ways. It's pretty funny, because Captain Amazing telling Casanova to, get rid of, the booby traps and everything that's on him, because, knowing that Casanova would unleash something on Captain Amazing. But except for one, which, Captain Amazing falls for, this spray can or whatever, and that basically knocks him unconscious. Well, and that was a big mistake for Captain Amazing. He should have known what was coming, this was on him. And of course, if he, and here's the thing, if Captain Amazing had not released Casanova Frankenstein out of prison, well, we wouldn't get what would come next later on in the film. So Captain Amazing is captured, and Casanova plans to kill Captain Amazing tomorrow, and there's this device that Casanova has that he will unleash and, dominate Champion City. It's called the Psychofraculator. And to put it at this, the Psychofraculator basically, it does horrible things to people, and basically, warping people's bodies, and, we see the inside of their body, very gruesome and horrible, and what we see the device do on a couple of characters, and until I get to that. And I think, as Doc Healer, he does explain a lot about the Psychofraculator. But anyways, and at one point, Furious, he brought along the Shoveler and the Blue Raja to see what was going on and try to break into Casanova's mansion. But unfortunately, the Disco Boys, they're there, and they beat them to the ground. And when we cut to the three superhero wannabes back at the cafe, well, they weren't really beat up that badly. Their uniforms are alright. All they have is just, tissues up their noses. So that's it. And by the way, Blue Raja and the Shoveler, them and Furious, what their lives are like, aside from trying to be superheroes. Blue Raja, well, he lives with his mom, and he has, he has an accent, I think, a British accent, but the accent is fake. He's not actually British, he has this simple American voice. It's pretty funny. I didn't expect him to, show his real accent when he was interacting with his mom. So do the other characters know that he's faking the accent? I don't know. The Shoveler, he's a married man, and he's got a couple of kids, and his wife, Lucille, being played by Jennifer Lewis, and to Disney fans like myself, she would be best known as the voice of Mama Odie from The Princess and the Frog. That's right. So Lucille, she's really, just not so sure, and, about what her husband, as the Shoveler, has been doing for 12 years, and, she's very concerned for him. And even, like, one of their children, their youngest son, like, supports and believes in his dad. And, you hear her telling her son not to encourage his daddy. So that was funny. But hey, he loves what he does and trying to be a superhero and being the shoveler. So, why would you give up on a dream? Just, no matter what. And for Furious and his actual name being Roy, we see that Roy is basically, he works at a junkyard, and his boss, like an old lady who runs the junkyard, and like giving him a hard time and just trying to just really pushing his buttons, and her getting up in his face and junk it, and because he's trying not to lose his crap, and going for a rubber ball and just, this ball saved your life. So and then because he at one point he heard on one of the cars radios that Captain Lance Hunt went missing, and no word from Captain Amazing, and that's when they go and they try and break into the mansion. And that's when at the cafe they decide to basically bring together a group of superheroes to take on Casanova Frankenstein, and starting with locating and finding the Invisible Boy, being played by Kel Mitchell, aka Ed from The Good Burger. Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger, can I take your order? Yeah, that's him. I actually didn't know at first that was him, because I recognize him with that hairdo as Ed. So I'm sure some of you would too. So, the Invisible Boy, his capability of being invisible, as he explains, he can only turn invisible if everybody, no matter how many people is with him, they have to turn their backs because, they can't see him turning invisible. That's the only way he can turn invisible. And, I think he also says, if he looks at himself in the mirror, he wouldn't be able to turn invisible. If nobody looks at him, neither himself, he would turn invisible. And they think at first, he's not really going to be that much help, but the Invisible Boy convinces them and even tells them that he knows a lot more superheroes, and for them, trying to find more superheroes to join their team. And that's when, back at the cafe, and with the Invisible Boy joining them, that's when enter Spleen, played by Paul Reubens. This, geeky, superhero with freckles, and he has a lisp. And it's at first, the Shoveler, the Blue Raja, and Furious, to them, Spleen gets them on their nerves, and, Spleen tell them, why do you guys always ditch me? That hurts my feelings. Yeah. And Paul Reubens, of course he's funny, and he was funny in this. And Spleen's superpower, and as he demonstrates, he has the Invisible Boy to pull his finger, and by doing so, his power is unleashing a massive fart. And everybody in the cafe passing out from his fart. And actually, even though it's disgusting, it works. And Spleen can be helpful to them, and he does join them. And that's when, a little bit later, we see at the Shoveler's house, that's where, at Shoveler's house, hosting a party, and finding superheroes to join them, and Lucille having some funny moments, and by one point she says, if one person pukes in the pool, I'm divorcing you. Geez, lady, come on. And besides, Shoveler didn't want to do this at all. He didn't want this to be hosted at his and his wife's house. But, he wouldn't let his friends down, and he had no choice but for it to happen at their house. And I tell you, some of the superheroes that we see and trying to join the group, to sign in to join the superhero team, some pretty interesting ones. Like, they're like these two chicks who are basically like, yeah, they're dressed up as like Wonder Woman like costumes, and there's like the Waffler, and there's also there's one that's the Waffler. He was played by Dan Cook. The Mailman, played by Vince Mekasi, if I'm saying that right, and the Pencilhead. The Pencilhead being played by Doug Jones. Yeah, I almost forgot that Doug Jones was in this. I think I knew at first that he had an appearance in this, but yeah, when watching this movie, I was like, oh, Doug Jones. And we get the son of Pencilhead, father and son, they're superheroes, and their capability of being superheroes is like erasing their victims, stuff like that. Pretty funny. And then, like, after all that comes to an end, with superheroes trying to sign up, and like they didn't find any perfect superhero to join their superhero team, all down to one, and that being the Bowler, being played by Janine Garofalo, if I'm saying her full name right. So she steps in and she shows off what she's capable of, and by throwing a bowling ball, and it just like bounces back and forth, and yep, she's perfect, and they beg her to join their superhero team. We also find out that the Bowler is the daughter of a superhero who he too was a bowler, and which being Carmine the Bowler. And the guys, like, they are very familiar with Carmine the Bowler, but unfortunately, Carmine the Bowler got killed. It had to do something with an elevator shaft, and we do find out not long after, who it was that killed the Bowler's father. So, And by the way, there were a couple of times like the audio was I don't know how to describe it. Like that sequence where they're talking at out in the backyard, and when the Bowler joined their team, and she's talking about her dad, and like even like say at one moment, Furious and the Bowler, they like get into an argument yes I do, no you don't, like that kind of argument, going back and forth at each other, and it happens a couple of times in the film. Not to mention, a couple of times that happen in the film, Spleen is trying to hit on the Bowler, and it's pretty funny. And even like say at the end of the movie, we don't see them get together. Maybe they do, like later on, but and you get my point, just, but we don't see it in the movie, like maybe later on after the story, who knows. So at one point, they're all in a vehicle, and there's one moment where the Bowler is talking to the skull inside of the bowling ball, and Blue Raja is like wondering and just curious, like, why is she talking to the skull in the bowling ball? And it turns out that the skull is the Bowler's skull of her dad, and basically she's the only one that can listen and hear what the skull of her dad is saying. And sometimes, the Bowler and her dad like get into some arguments, even though we can't hear what the skull is saying, but what she's saying, we know what arguments they're getting into. And they at one point pass by Casanova's limo, and they turn around and they they come face to face with Casanova. And I think I kind of saw this coming, like Casanova kind of poking fun at them and saying, I would like to place an order for burgers and fries, like they're like like it's a drive-through window, you know. It's funny, and sometimes villains having sense of humor, you know, even when the good guys are not laughing. So the heroes, they start attacking Casanova's limo and, like, say, the Blue Raja using his utensils to scrape and damage the limo. Roy, aka the Furious, unleashing his furiousness, trying to, pound on the limo, and the bowler, striking at them inside of the limo with the bowling ball of her father's skull, I should say. And it turns out that Tony P, again, played by Eddie Izzard, is the one that killed the bowler's dad. Yeah, he, and as he says, I'm the one that shafted your father. So, yep, it's him. He's the one that killed her father. So, and of course, with her going after him. And not much is working out for the heroes taking on the bad guys in the limo, and thus they escape. And, and that's when a little bit later, we see that the Disco Boys, they confront the heroes who, basically totaled their limo, and they get help from a mysterious hero, because, he is mysterious, and he was mentioned a little bit earlier, and mentioned by Blue Raja, and he's called the Sphinx. He steps in, and he helps out our heroes, and basically having the Disco Boys flee. And the Sphinx, being played by Wes Studi, I'm saying his last name right. And basically, what happens next is that the Sphinx takes in our group of hero wannabes that are trying to be a really good superhero team and trying to stop Casanova and to save Captain Amazing. However, Sphinx basically teaches them and guides them through step by step, and Furious, he is not pleased with this, and he just wants to have him and the rest of the superheroes go after Casanova and not, be taught by Sphinx. And, Sphinx, giving them good lessons and advice, wise words. And the Sphinx, he was really good at what he was doing, teaching our wannabe heroes. And like, say, for one thing, like teaching the Blue Raja how to aim much better. And by doing so, like, lifting his like cloak up and just like, that kind of thing. And having like at one point, Furious, like, have a hammer be steadied on his head, on the top of his head, and also having watermelon on his feet, like watermelon shoes. Why? I don't know. What's the point? And we even get Smash Mouth, All-Star. Yeah, the song that's well known for being in Shrek is in the film. And yeah, because a lot of people cite Shrek, having that song, but there were a couple of other movies that did have the All-Star song, so just so you know, and Mystery Men being one of them, and not to mention the music video of All-Star being straight from Mystery Men. So you have, like, what's-his-face, like, from Smash Mouth, himself, like, at the register, signing up to join the superhero team. It's pretty funny. And so at one point, we even see Sphinx, like, having our superhero wannabes, like, repeating after what he says, and, like, at one point having them all group hug. But Furious, like, at one point, he's had enough of this. Even, like, say, when it comes up to their sewing costumes of their own, like, new, much better costumes for them, and which we would see later on in the film. Furious, he's had enough, and, like, he wants to just go and take on Casanova, and he, he's basically going to have to do this himself. He wants no part of the mission, no part of the team, wants nothing from Sphinx, his advice, and no training. Yeah, Furious at times in this movie can be kind of a jerk. And at one point we see Furious at the cafe, and Monica, coming up to Furious, and, she's curious, like, where are, his friends, and Furious, just saying, what friends, And, Monica, like, at times, like, setting Furious straight and convincing him and so on. And when he's there, that's when he asks Monica if, he can walk her home, and, telling her that, with chaos going on out in Champion City with villains, him still trying to get her attention and, make an impression on her, etc. And for the rest of the superhero wannabes and with the Sphinx, well, Sphinx telling them that, in order to still take on Casanova, well, I mean, Casanova, he's got a lot of weapons, and for them, they don't have that many weapons. And that's when they remembered that, well, they have Doc Healer's card. And that's when the Shoveler, the Bowler, and Spleen, they go to this, like, abandoned carnival/amusement park. That's what it is. And, inside and further in the abandoned carnival/amusement park lies Doc Healer's, like, laboratory. And thus, Doc Healer, he helps out our wannabe heroes. And basically the weapons that they have, they're not lethal weapons. They're just weapons that could just, like, do a lot of random stuff. Like, there's the Blaminator, like, you aim at people, and, like, they start to, like, blame one another, and testing it on the Bowler and Spleen. It's pretty funny. And at one point, like, I think, yeah, because at one point the Bowler is not impressed by this, and, she and she has the other two, like, go with her because, they don't want Doc Healer's help, basically her. But that's when Doc Healer, like, throws, tornado bomb, and basically it hits on Spleen, and causing him to be lifted up in the air and spin, and Spleen screaming. And when I'm hearing Spleen screaming, I'm hearing Pee Wee Herman scream. I'm pretty sure, because, yeah, that's the scream that Paul Reubens has done, I don't know, like, and especially for comedy, like, doing that same kind of scream that Pee Wee does, ah! Yeah, I guarantee you, if you've watched the film, and at that scene where he's being spun around by the, like, tornado bomb, then, yeah, and you hear him scream, like, you would think so too, that's Pee Wee Herman's scream. So, yeah, so to speed things up, yeah, they get the weapons and devices from Doc Healer, and Doc Healer is still helping them out, even at one point giving them, like, a tank. And that's when, like, Furious, because he's walking Monica home, and Monica's still, setting Furious straight, and her telling him to, like, do the right thing and to go back and be with his friends and to help them out. And, yeah, he does so, and he listened to Monica. And I think, yeah, at one point we see some of the Disco Boys spying on Furious and Monica. And we see Furious, he goes back to his wannabe superhero friends and telling Shoveler that, he's upset that he's left out of this mission. But no, he's not. He left. Like, why is he saying this? Like, Furious at times just, with how he is, just, like, you get my point. So, yeah, he does join his superhero wannabe friends to take on Casanova Frankenstein, and there's a moment where, like, say, Shoveler and Blue Raja, they go back to their homes, and thinking that they might die on this mission, they say their goodbyes to, their family. Blue Raja says goodbye to his mom. And by the way, Blue Raja's mother, her name is Violet, being played by Louise Lasser. I hope I'm saying her last name right. A sweet moment from Blue Raja's mother where she helps out her son with the weapons that he needs, the utensils, and giving her son some ancient utensils that, like, Blue Raja's great-great-great-grandmother, I want to say, had kept for years, and thus She gives them to her son. Yeah, very sweet moment, and that's a good mother. And you know what? Because very proud of her son, you know, what he's doing and trying to do his best to become a hero. And at this point, yeah, because this is the moment for him to really, you know, be a good hero and to save the day. And for Shoveler, well, yeah, he supposedly says his goodbyes, you know, supposedly, again, because thinking that they might die on this mission, saying his goodbyes to his wife, and Lucille just once again going on saying that, you know, I'll leave you, stuff like that. But of course she doesn't. I think, yeah, that's just upset talk, you know. So yeah, all of our wannabe heroes get together, even Sphinx. That was really cool that Sphinx joined in with the superhero wannabes. And thus, you know, they have brand new costumes on. Yeah, really cool looking. And even like, say, Blue Raja. Well, because he didn't have, throughout this film, he didn't have anything that was blue, but he now does, you know, and thus with his new uniform. And they get in the tank, and again, thanks to Doc Healer, and, you know, and even say Furious, aka, you know, / Roy, his real name Roy, saying supposedly his one last goodbye to Monica, and Furious, like, trying to tell Monica his real name, and he does so, and yeah, that's when Monica gives Roy a kiss, and yeah, should have seen that coming, and Monica tells Roy to just be Roy. And after she says that, well, that basically puts Roy, aka Furious, in a crisis. Like, now he's going on saying that he's not Furious, like, he's chickening out. Oh, come on, Roy, get a grip of yourself already. And even, like, the superhero wannabes, and especially the Bowler, you know, telling Roy, aka the Furious, to snap out of it, and to get a hold of himself, and, you know, he can do what he does, you know, what he's capable of as, you know, being a hero, you know, unleashing his furiousness, you know, but still, you know, because he's having a crisis, chickening out, and, you know, I'm just Roy, stuff like that. So when they make their way to Casanova's mansion, Spleen and the Invisible Boy, they're basically, like, watching for any activity, you know, what's the word, like, you know, like, they stay behind and watch if there's any of the bad guys at, you know, at the mansion, like, their activity, stuff like that, you know. And so that's when the rest of the superhero wannabes, Bowler, Roy, Shoveler, and the Blue Raja, they go in, they sneak through, like, I guess, like, yeah, the underground parts of the mansion, and they find Captain Amazing. He's still there, you know, taped to a chair, you know, restrained on a chair, I should say. Even, like, say, like, the last time we saw Captain Amazing, because, you know, Casanova, he put him in the chair, and with the Psycho Fraculator, you know, above him, and the lights were all turned off when Captain Amazing, because as Casanova was leaving the room, and Captain Amazing was trying to convince Casanova that he can join him and be a sidekick, and the lights being turned off and being completely pitch black. Poor Captain Amazing. Again, he brought this upon himself, and when the superhero wannabes, they find Captain Amazing, and they try to save him, only to accidentally activate the Psycho Fraculator, and, you know, just Captain Amazing telling them, you know, morons, turn it off, you know, flip the switch, and, like, talking about which switches to flip and such, and Blue Raja, because, you know, because of how much they were talking and a lot of shouting, like, Blue Raja steps in, like, you know, I will shut it off, I will flip the switch, and I think, yeah, Blue Raja, because he flips the switch, and that activates the Psycho Fraculator completely, and basically, should have seen it coming. Captain Amazing is killed. And what we see the Psycho Fraculator do on Captain Amazing, oh my gosh, like, I mean, with the CGI in this movie, you know, talk about, you know, CGI in the late 90s. The CG in this, like, yeah, and what we see the Psycho Fraculator do to Captain Amazing, Very gruesome, I should say. And the fact that this movie is PG-13, like, oh my gosh. Like, and if I recall, yeah, because when I watched this for the first time and seeing that, like, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know? Like, believe me, yeah, just very gruesome, and what it does to Captain Amazing. So yeah, again, should have seen it coming. Captain Amazing, he is killed by the Psycho Fraculator, and, well, it's not the wannabe superheroes' fault, you know. I mean, especially because of that argument that was going on and Captain Amazing just shouting at them, just, you get my point. So, all that's left are the superhero wannabes to take on Casanova Frankenstein, and even when Casanova Frankenstein, he, at one point, like, he gathered a group of, like, supervillains, like a group of supervillains who I think were basketball players, a group that are, like, you know, fancy and stuff like that, like, yeah. Like, you know, he gathers them, and then, like, he brings them into the room with the Psychofraculator, and he thus sees what happened to Captain Amazing. And to speed things up, well, we get the battle between our superhero wannabes and Casanova Frankenstein and the super villains, and there's one moment with the Invisible Boy, because when the super villains, they fled in another room, and when the tank that they were in, it crashed into the mansion, there's a device that's activated. Anybody who steps foot in the room that they're hiding in, like, it goes off and basically, like, disintegrates somebody, and it disintegrates one of the supervillains that, you know, was trying to catch up with them because, like, his pants fell down. And so it's up to Invisible Boy to turn off the device, and by doing so, well, he has all of the other superhero wannabes to turn their backs, not to look at him, so he can turn invisible. And it works. He does turn invisible, and he deactivates the device, and when we see him turn invisible, well, his clothes come off of him, and when he's uninvisible, we see he's naked, so not even wearing clothes, like, will work. Hey, you know, like, a good example, in the first two Fantastic Four films, when Sue Storms turned invisible, well, her clothes didn't turn invisible, so there's a good example right there. And it's hilarious, yeah. Anything like that is funny. So again, like, you know, our superhero wannabes taking on the supervillains, even the Bowler taking on, of course, Tony P. And Tony P is defeated. I think, yeah, because he at one point got crushed. And I think, yeah, thanks to the Bowler's bowling ball with the skull of her father. So, and we then see Casanova Frankenstein holding Monica hostage. Yeah, because I think it was obvious. And because, like, some of the disco boys were spying on Roy and Monica, I think some of us would have known that this was coming, yeah. Casanova has Monica held hostage, and, you know, if they don't drop their weapons and they don't surrender, then, you know, Casanova would, you know, murder Monica. And that's when Roy, aka Furious, unleashes his furiousness and fighting off against Casanova. And Casanova, how he fights, because he has, like, golden, like, fingernails, like, you know, claws, and him hissing a couple times, and, you know, both of them fighting, and, you know, like, punching each other and so on, and the Psychofraculator about to be activated and being unleashed and, you know, terrorizing Champion City. But at one point, Roy, aka the Furious, tosses/throws Casanova into the Psychofraculator, and thus his body gets warped, and yep, thus Casanova Frankenstein is defeated once and for all. And the Bowler uses, you know, her bowling ball with her father's skull, and, you know, another argument that happens between her and her father's skull. And, you know, the bowling ball with her father's skull is the only way to, you know, destroy the psychofraculator, and thus, throwing the bowling ball and just bouncing here and there, and thus the psychofraculator is damaged, and a big explosion is about to erupt, and all of our superhero wannabes and Monica fleeing out of there, and yeah, boom, a huge explosion happens, and yeah, all of the supervillains are defeated, and Casanova's mansion is destroyed for good. And the aftermath/epilogue to the film. The next day, news reporters are there, and reporting what had happened at Casanova's mansion. And we see the superhero wannabes' their family, seeing this on the news, from Blue Raja's mother being proud of her son to the shoveler's wife and kids, and their dog being happy and proud of, the man of the house, basically. And, yeah, even, Furious, he gets the girl, of course, Monica, and even, Monica telling the news reporters about, the superhero wannabes, but the news reporter woman brings up 2 words, thus the name of the film and who these superheroes are. And the 2 words that she brings up are mystery men. Yeah, and, her saying something like, we'll never know who these mystery men are, however she says it. And a funny moment from the Sphinx, because he comes up with an idea for a name for their superhero team, which being, the Super Squad, yeah. And, yeah, I think, they don't think it's a good idea and, a good name for their superhero team. And thus, that's how the movie ends. Yeah, it's pretty funny. And, we once again hear the All-Star song and the credits roll. Yeah, a funny way to end the film. But, yeah, good as well. Mystery Men, I thought, was pretty good and decent. And yeah, and I mean, this did very well when it came out, and, probably not the best, but still, it's entertaining, enjoyable, and fun all together. And I'm giving Mystery Men, yeah, it's on my mind, 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Mystery Men. And what about you guys? What did you think of Mystery Men itself? What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like as always. So, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Mystery Men. More review videos coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And stay tuned later tonight because, well, continuing on, reviewing more Marvel films, and the next Marvel film I'm going to be reviewing is a Marvel film that's hilarious and is a comedy. And let's just say that Ryan Reynolds plays this anti-Marvel character. You know what I'm talking about. Stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.